All right, we are live another week, another What the F happened. We have got a lot to talk about today. Mr. Nagy and myself are here to rant, to rave, and we might just argue. That's what the F is all about. We will be right back after this. All right. Well, we are back at it another week, another What's the F happened. Join here with my one and only Mr. Lazy Cash the Cat, and then also my co-host, Mr. Nagy. What's happening down there in Florida?
Hey, good morning. Just staying nice and cozy, warm down here. Beautiful sunny day. I know that you guys got about a foot or two of snow coming at you right now, but I will say I'm a little jealous over the snowboarding factor. So I'm sure you'll be out there in the mountain at some point here, maybe this weekend. And that's what I'm looking forward to this winter, is getting out on a couple mountains and shredding the hills, as they say, but having a good time doing it also with some business partners, some clients. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about these days. But other than that, we got this What the F, Chris, and wealth webinar today, and then we got one next week, and that's it for 2025. Christmas and New Year's Day this year fall on Wednesdays, which is a little odd. So we won't be having What the F. So got this week, next week to close out 2024, and it's hard to believe how quickly time flies, man. I mean, you look at just life in general. I mean, I've been married now for over a decade. Just like, wow, right? I mean, have a 9-year-old son, been working with you for 5 years now, Chris. It's amazing how quickly time flies, but also how quickly, you can make things happen, how quickly things can change. I mean, I think back on clients I just met earlier this year in 2024 and watched their journey through this year and just how much they've changed in their lives thanks to watching our shows and implementing some of the strategies. It's really exciting and motivating going into 2025. So cool stuff. I know this is about What the F, so let's get into some of this wild and wacky news because it doesn't seem to ever stop. It's just craziness.
I mean, it is a time to be grateful as we go into the final stages of the year, rolling into the holidays, and just one of, my all-time favorite holidays, Christmas, and what Christmas is all about. But, today is all about what the F, and there's plenty of that. So let's dive in. And also just one final thing, Stephen, that you said, I just landed yesterday morning from Florida, and I was in San Diego right before Florida. So I just had nice weather, and I spent all my time indoors, so I didn't get to enjoy it. But now I'm back here, and it's actually pretty warm here. And you just mentioned we're supposed to get a couple feet of snow. That's news to me, but I bring it on because there is no snow. It's been warm and rainy, and bring the snow on. So let's dive into this. There's a lot to talk about, and welcome back. Well, I shouldn't say welcome. Welcome back, Damien. He's coming in from Japan. No, I did not get the photos from Hannah. You should ping her and be like, yo, send Chris those photos. But listen, there's a lot to talk about in the news, and I'm going to try to keep this on pace, but we're probably going to be a bit all over the place because there's a couple things that, number one, I just can't rationalize, and I want to see what all of you think about this, but there's just some things happening that just show how broken people are. I can't help but to think back to the pandemic. The pandemic, excuse my language, but just fucked people up. It did. It literally, I feel like it created this whole new generation of just fuckery in people's minds, and it is still continuing. And then that continues what we just went through over the last 4 years, the crazy divide in this country, throwing everything at us but the kitchen sink. Actually, they did throw the toilet, but we didn't get the sink yet, and that's probably still coming. And just all the stuff that you see happening. But let me deviate from some of the fuckery and go into this thing, which I think is worthwhile. Like I said, and I've said it before, when we do this show, I know there's a lot in the news, but the news is just so far from the truth that I'm having a hard time keeping this show about the news. So what I've been doing is paying to subscribe to various newsletters from different economists around the country. And this is one economist. I got two that we're going to talk about today. But this economist is talking about the M2 money supply. So Stephen and I have covered this. We've done videos on this on YouTube, but I do want to talk about this. So when you think, just so if anyone doesn't know what M2 is, it's basically the measure of money. It's all it is. I mean, this is a great explanation that he says. Money velocity is the turnover of money as people spend. So when people spend money, that gives somebody else money to then go and spend that money, and then the next person gets it. So it's literally just a big circle of money in motion. That's all it is. And if you look at money supply, and it's only been tracked since 1959, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in that era is where they started tracking this, but it has always gone up. There has never been a decline, and I'll prove that. There's the chart. Okay, you can see it's always gone up until now. So money supply is actually declining for the first time since it's been tracked, since the M2 has been tracked. And there's a couple things that we really have to identify. Now, I'm going to put this in context because some of you need to hear this, and some of you are going to get pissed off at some of the things I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you this is almost your final fucking warning, because I'm seriously sick of feeling like a broken record, saying the same thing over and over and over again to fall on deaf ears. And now that's not anybody on here, but literally we speak to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people a month. And I just keep hearing the same thing. I keep reading the same comments on my social feeds. I keep reading the same comments on my YouTube. And I got to think to myself, either people are truly delusional or maybe I'm just wrong. And I can't see. I don't, we'll let you all decide, but let's go into this. So there is no question that we are in a bubble right now. No question. And listen, the bubble really started back in 2009. Okay. Well, it burst in 2008, but we started another bubble with money printing in 2009. And then during the pandemic, the crazy money printing created this wacky bubble that we are living in right now. So here's the thing. Bubbles always have falling money velocity. So I want you to remember that. So if money velocity is falling right now, the only other time money velocity has fallen was before this was tracked, which was the Great Depression, okay, which was first, it was followed by, or not followed by, it was the Great Depression was a result of the Roaring 20s, a crazy time that literally mimics the times we're in right now. Bubbles, bubbles, and more bubbles, and they burst for the Great Depression. Bubbles, bubbles, and bubbles. They burst during the 2008 Great Recession. Bubbles, bubbles, and holy crap bubbles in where we're at now. So let me just read what this economist says. So he said, bubbles always have falling money velocity as a sign that speculation and general rise in debts and financial assets is not productive. And it leads to a depression every time, and deflation in prices from falling and failing debts. The asset bubble burst will ultimately follow. So that's what he's saying. He's saying that because money velocity is falling, it is a telltale sign that what is coming is something to the tune of a depressionary period, a deflationary period. Now, the Fed is going to fight this. The central banks are going to fight this. And he goes on to talk about that. And what they've already been fighting it. They've pushed this on. Like if you follow Ray Dalio, if you read his or follow his videos or read his books, like we're way past us end of a cycle. Like we are past the short-term debt cycle. We are past the long-term debt cycle. We have been due, but because the central banks have literally had unlimited, freedom to just print, they have pushed this bubble, making it bigger and bigger. It's kind of like when you blow a balloon and you're just like, holy crap, I can't believe it hasn't popped. And you keep blowing it, and you're just like, this is insane. I can't believe the bubble hasn't popped. Well, that's what he's essentially saying here. And this bubble is going on 16 years old. And I'm just taking it from 2009. For 16 years, we've been riding this bubble. So what comes next? Well, that's what we have to talk about. So if any of you follow the news, and I can show you in the news, I can show you all the stuff. It looks like everything's great, right? I did a great video. I can't believe it didn't get more views than it did, but it was a video on the past 5 presidential elections, specifically focusing on presidents that were running for a second term. And in that video, it literally shows exactly what's happening now. A post-election rally. So when Trump came in, Trump, make no two ways about it, is viewed as being, the president that will be good for the economy. Okay, good for the United States of America, which he will, but I got a caveat to that. But it's resulted in a bubble. And then also he's pro crypto, which has resulted in crypto going, up over 100,000. We're going to hit that in a second because it's just hilarious. Stephen, it's just, we've dealt with this for years and years. The only freaking time we hear about crypto is when it's super high and everybody thinks it's going to the moon. And Stephen, please remind me, where does it always go when it's at this type of a point?
It usually pulls back.
It always pulls back. The crypto in Bitcoin is 100% correlated to the stock market. Look at the stock market, up, up, up. Okay, led by 7 major stocks, the Magnificent Seven, and then crypto is going up, up, up because Trump is pro crypto. Trump's cabinet picks are pro crypto, and I totally agree. But what goes up must come down. The question is when, but the only time people seem to want to talk about crypto, the only time people seem to want to buy crypto is when it's high. Isn't that the opposite of what everybody should be doing? Should you be buying stocks in crypto when things are high, or should you be buying them when they're low? When they're low. We all know that. Inherently, we logically think that way, but emotion gets in the way and we think we're missing out on something. We think that for some reason, if we don't get into crypto, we're missing out. And as soon as you get in, what will happen? It will go down. You should have got in when nobody was talking about crypto. You should have got in months and months ago when absolutely nobody even wanted to talk about crypto because everybody just lost a bunch because they don't listen and don't use logic. They use emotion. And that's where we're at right now. So listen, I truly believe crypto will be around for a long time. I truly believe this administration will be very positive for crypto. But I must tell you that Bitcoin right now is speculative as it ever will be. It is also volatile. It is very volatile. It will go up and down crazily. It is not a safe place for money. It is a very dangerous, speculative place for money to go. If you're investing in crypto, and literally, I just heard the other day from one of our money mentors, one of our clients, and I'm not going to mention any names, has 100% of their investable assets in none other than Bitcoin. 100%. I mean, literally, like, just why don't you just walk out into the freeway, close your eyes, and just hope you don't get hit by a car, and do it at night in all black. That's essentially what you're doing in putting all your money in. Listen, you should treat crypto just like you treat any other asset class, especially like precious metals. Maybe 10% of your investable assets. Maybe if you really understand crypto, bump it up to 15, 20, but that's about it. Like, it's insanity that people are putting as much money as they are in crypto right now at all-time highs, thinking it's going to push higher. And it probably will push a little higher, but it's just one of those things. The old Warren Buffett saying, buy low and sell high. You should be selling crypto now. I don't own any crypto. I sold all my Bitcoin. I probably should have held out. I didn't sell it at 100 plus. I sold it down, 70s, but I made money and I was happy I made money. Happy until, you have to pay tax on it, but whatever. I'm trying to explain that into 2025, you're going to see things change. You're going to see bubbles deteriorate. You're going to see, Trump come in and he's going to do a lot in the first couple of weeks. He's going to instill tariffs. Obviously, there is still, word out there. And it's just funny how some of the BRICS countries have just like, it's like a good puppy, right? It's like good doggy. Trump said he threatened, no trade with the U.S. and 100% tariffs in Africa. If I'm not mistaken, the United Arab Emirates, they all kind of just buckled. In India, I'm sorry, maybe not Emirates, but India and Africa came out and essentially in roundabout words, and I have the articles on this, said, no, we're not trying to create a new currency. Oh my goodness, Trump, we're not trying to do that. We would never challenge the dollar. We're just trying to get more trade going within our countries with our own currency. That's it. Good doggy. Here's your bone. It's hilarious to watch. But the other thing, too, we're going to hit today is Syria, which is a very complicated thing that just happened over there. And I don't fully have a grasp on it. Hopefully, Stephen's got a little bit better, but I've got great articles to talk about it. But before we go there, let me just pause, Stephen, and I want to just talk a little bit about some of the comments. What are we seeing in the comments here? Anything we can hit on real quick?
Nothing really coming in from YouTube right now. Just people kind of agreeing, buy low, sell high, short, high, ride it down. Sure, if you're playing the markets. 100% in Bitcoin? That's crazy.
That just happened yesterday. Yeah, congrats, Steve and Drew. Awesome. Making babies, baby. We need that. We need that population increase. So go out there, folks, during the holidays and make some babies. Let's see. All right. So yeah, nothing up here on the Instagram side. So, all right, now I'm going to turn to another topic. Stephen, is there anything you wanted to chime in on that before I jump to the next one?
Well, just kind of on the Bitcoin thing. I mean, it's been interesting because, like you said, it rides the markets. I mean, Trump has always been a guy that's always been very big on the markets. He judges, sometimes conflates, the economy with the markets, which a lot of people do, but it's completely separate things. And so, Trump likes to talk a big game and really talk things up and always act like he's got everything perfect and under control. And so he's really been touting Bitcoin a lot. So you see a lot of articles coming out, Bitcoin storms above 100,000, kind of giving Trump some credit for it just because some of the moves he's been making. If you look, what he's done, the SEC approves Bitcoin back in January of this year, but Trump has been, since Trump won the election, he's been very pro Bitcoin. He wanted to appoint a very pro crypto guy as the head of the SEC. And, one of the challenges for crypto at this point is the SEC has been really cracking down on crypto. So, Trump's kind of like, hey, we're going to do that. He's been talking about a strategic Bitcoin reserve and what that could look like. So a lot of people are just kind of saying, that's one of the reasons it's following up. But at the end of the day, Chris, like you said, it really does just seem to correlate exactly with the stock market. And of course, the stock market right now just keeps breaking all-time high. It seems like Bitcoin keeps riding with it. So how long can that go on? Can that go on forever? Are we going to see a big pullback, a little pullback, a massive pullback? That's what you got to kind of think about, right?
Absolutely.
But that's about it on that. I mean, the other thing that when it looks to the economy, and the other part that kind of says, how long can this thing stay up is Trump is doing a lot of stuff right now to kind of really promote business and promote the economy. I mean, this was his most recent thing he came out with yesterday. He said Trump promises fully expedited permits for investors of $1 billion plus in the U.S. So basically saying any companies that want to come in and invest $1 billion or more in the U.S., they're basically going to clear them for whatever permits they need, whether that's environmental stuff, whether that's just red tape in the past. They really, really, really want to open all that up and allow people to really, he said, basically get ready to rock. Any person or company investing $1 billion or more in the U.S. will receive fully expedited approvals and permits, including, but in no way limited to, all environmental approvals. Get ready to rock. So really trying to position this thing. And then we can get into Elon Musk and what he's been doing also with the Doge. He came out yesterday and he's been talking a lot about just how ancient the computer systems and technology of the U.S. government are. A lot about how, these government agencies never pass audits. They always 100% of the time fail their audits. And so there's so much talk when it comes to taxes and the IRS and going after people and collecting, their fair share, making people pay their fair share. But then you look at who's actually controlling those taxes, and those people aren't using your fair share in any way that's reasonable. They can't even track it. They don't even know where the money goes because the systems are so ancient. So, Elon's coming out saying, listen, I want my new title to basically be, director of technology and be able to improve things for the U.S. government. So you see some of these moves and it makes you wonder, like, can the market keep going because of all these moves? Or what does that look like, Chris? So
that is a good question. It's a really good question as to, can the market actually keep going up, up, and up? I mean, it's a really tough thing. Well, I can tell you just a couple things just about tariffs, and I've already covered this enough, so we're not going to hit tariffs because I beat the hell out of it last week, and I've got more than enough YouTube videos on it. But, with these tariffs, just know prices are going to go up. Know that profits are going to go down. If prices go up and profits go down, what does that typically mean for the economy? It means the economy is slipping, okay? And it will continue to slip. There almost is no other path, but you can't fight the Fed, number one. And Trump's Treasury pick has said, they're going to keep Mr. Powell in there until the end of his term. But Powell said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving. So anyway, we'll see what happens there. But it is interesting. Listen, like, I've been wrong before, and I'll admit it, I might be wrong this time, but it's just like when you just logically look at everything that's going on, when you study previous presidential elections and you study what's going on and you study what happened with tariffs, Reagan administration in the first 2 years is probably one of the best periods of time to look at if you want to know what we probably are going into. And then then it's just a game of roulette, right? Then it's just basically just roll it and it's going to fall where it's going to fall. But I'm not taking any chance. I have zero. And I love that Tony and Angie Stewart coming in from YouTube, they sold Bitcoin at 98 grand. Every one of you should be putting your hands together and literally cheering for them, because I bet you they made a shit ton of money. And then their final comment was waiting for the next drop to go back in. Now, the Bitcoin enthusiast would be like, you're waiting Bitcoin. Oh my God, you should have never sold. They're absolutely right. It's got to pull back, and it will pull back with the markets. We just don't know when. You can't time the market, but you can definitely predict what direction a market's going to go by following trends and signs. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, with all that said, I mean, I'm definitely by no means jumping into the markets or crypto right now. So just to be very clear about that, I don't, it's an interesting conversation though, with how pro business and pro economy and how Trump judges himself on how that all ends up at the end of the day, and what he's going to do to kind of keep that going. It's going to be really interesting because, like you said, common sense and everything that we look at tells us we should see a huge pullback, a huge correction. But can he keep that up? I mean, it's and he's going to have a lot of forces working against him. I mean, everybody wants to see, a lot of the powers that be want to see Trump fail, obviously. So I think it's going to be an interesting couple of years coming up. That's for sure. And just to kind of close out the part on your on the BRICS that you were speaking about, just to kind of show what you were talking about. So Trump came out on a Truth Social, said Trump took aim at BRICS countries. Again, BRICS one more time: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates over longstanding efforts to do away with the U.S. dollar currency. Trump demanded a commitment from the countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty U.S. dollar. He said the idea that the BRICS countries are trying to move away from the dollar while we stand by and watch is over. We require a commitment from these countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency. They will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful U.S. economy. They can go find another sucker. Basically saying, listen, we're not going to let you guys do this anymore, and we're going to make America great again, which I absolutely love, man.
3 little topics that we're going to finish up on the Bitcoin thing, but it is all over the news. Congrats to Matt Farrell. He made 50% return on his Bitcoin, which means Matt had to sell. You can't say you made money until you've sold, because that's the way it works, folks. A lot of people are like, oh, I made this much money in my Bitcoin. No, you didn't make anything until you sell and actually realize the gains. So no more of this. I made. No. You don't make until you take the profits off the table. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. So congrats, Matt. Michael said something very interesting coming in from YouTube as well. He said the problem with Bitcoin is the durability, kind of very similar to what we've always been talking about with Bitcoin as a unit of account. So the durability as a unit of account. Now, maybe some of you know what that means, some of you don't, but he comes in and he says gold is very durable, but not as easily denominated. Exactly true. Bitcoin can be easily denominated, but the problem with Bitcoin is its volatility. So one day you could be, riding high and going out and using Bitcoin to denominate for something, to buy something. The next day, you're definitely not going to be able to buy anything. You're going to starve if that's how you're using as a means of exchange, because the price drops. Gold has been a little bit more stable in that, but you can't just go out to 7-Eleven or the pizza place and pull out a gold coin and buy it. Now, some might barter and take it, but so it's a very good thing. We're at the early stages of it. And I invested in a company that is basically in the IBC space, but using blockchain as a means to create a digital a digital IBC policy. So people that can't get insurance, people that live in other countries can benefit from all the things we do with the infinite banking concepts, and specifically specially designed whole life policy. So I invested in that. So I truly believe in the technology. I believe in what its future will be, because I understand the problem it will solve. I just can't wrap my head around an investment that is literally, it has 0 intrinsic value. And number 2 is only valued because you say that it's worth something to me, and I agree to pay you what you say it's worth in a roundabout way. There is no tangible fundamentals behind Bitcoin. And I'm like Buffett. I just can't get behind that. If I'm going to buy Bitcoin, I'm going to do it and swing trade it. I'm not in it for the long haul. And you know what? A lot of you will say that's going to be a huge mistake for you, Chris. You're probably right. But you know what? I'll sleep good at night. So we'll leave it at that. One other person on Instagram, really FTV, came in and said, what do you think about XRP as it's been going up lately. So I studied XRP probably a couple years ago, or maybe it was last year. I really like the problem XRP solves. And the one thing I really like about XRP, and if any of you don't know what XRP is, you can Google it, is that XRP was literally illegal. Like, you couldn't buy it anywhere. And anything that the government pretty much shut down, except especially the last administration, or the current administration is on its way out, there was obviously something there. So when I studied it, I really liked its use. It is very unique. It is definitely one to watch. Definitely one, if you were going to invest in one with, money that you could afford to lose, that would be the one I would say. Or here's another way to get access to Bitcoin without buying Bitcoin is microsystems. So I'm not making investment, advice here. I'm just talking about one company, Microsystems. If you follow that particular company, they're pretty diverse in what they do, but they own and hold a shit ton of Bitcoin. So if you want exposure to Bitcoin without buying Bitcoin directly and having the volatility, Microsystems would be one to look at. But, when we talk investing, this is a really good time to start planning. Now, I know this is a time to sit on the sidelines. I can tell you right now, cash is king right now, and don't bring the dollar into it, but cash is king because it gives you the opportunity to take advantage of unique situations when they unfold, and we don't know when they're going to. If you're invested all in, you have no powder to buy the opportunities. And I've been talking about this for years. So get liquid right now. Take gains off the table. Wait for the opportunities to come to you instead of looking for opportunity, because there's very little opportunity right now. And the best place to start looking is just look at this administration. Look at the picks. Look at Elon. Look at Starlink. They're talking about doing, I believe, an IPO on Starlink. Like, you want to talk about places to invest money for future? Those are the things you look at. You look at what companies are going to benefit from this administration. What is this administration going to do? Anyone think this administration is going to double down and spend money on defense? Yeah, because the last administration pretty much gave all of our weaponry to Ukraine. So of course we got to build it back up. You think this administration is going to double down and invest in oil and exploration and all those things? Yeah, because the last administration sold all of our strategic reserves. So you think, when you look at this administration, you can easily see the path of what stocks you would want to be looking at now and looking for an entry point. And that is about all I'm going to say about that. And, listen, I'm going to give a little plug. Putting money through your own banking system and getting that set up so that when this opportunity comes to be able to invest from your banking system has a pretty damn good mathematical consequence for you. Okay. A positive mathematical consequence. I just worked with a client the other day that, a lot of times our clients will be really excited. Then life will hit and they'll forget about what they were doing and they'll start questioning it all. And then they call me back and this guy is 3 years in. I got his policies and I did the math and I'm just like, dude, you are printing money. For every 37,000 you put in, you're making over $5,000. Like, literally, like, imagine taking 37 grand, putting it in the bank account. At the end of the year, you go back to the bank, you can take out that 37,000 plus an additional $5,000 and you didn't have to take any risk to do that. Sign me up. Okay. That's exactly where he's at. And he's questioning it. He's literally questioning it. Doesn't make sense. I don't know why I would pay interest to use my own money. I'm like, dude, you're not paying interest to use your own money. You're making a spread. Anyway, little thing coming off of that. Also, too, folks, check out MSTV. It is something we're doubling down with. Little shameless plug here on WTF, but check out MSTV. We'll put the link up. It is going to be an amazing platform to get knowledge for webinars you can't get for free. It is a paid platform, $19 a month, $197 a year. I'm telling you, it's going to be the future of where I go and put the most valuable information. But let's talk about something else, because this.
I was just going to say a couple of comments coming out. I was just going to read real quick.
Okay, please.
Well, first off, Tony and Angie Stewart just said, loved meeting you and the team there, Chris, at the Ohio Real Estate National Convention, and still buzzing about the talk you gave. So it's always cool to hear. We always talk about travel is always great because you get to be with people, but it takes you away from your family and business and things like that. But comments like that, Tony and Angie, kind of make it all worth it. So thanks for sharing that. But Laszlo said, our fiat funny money is also volatile, backed by oil and debt.
Stop. Let me hit that.
Yep.
Yes, it is. but it is nowhere close to as volatile as any crypto asset you can buy. It absolutely, if you're going to double down on the dollar, now would be the time under this administration. That stuff that just happened in Syria will be really good for gold and the dollar. And mark my words, like if you're betting against the dollar, you are going to lose. Like, but I agree, you need to diversify a little bit, Lazo, and you need to look at crypto. I'm not saying crypto is bad. I'm just saying don't go all in, and know when to get in and when to get out, and know why you're buying it and understand what it is you're buying. So I agree, the funny money, the fiat money, but just look across the world. There is no other currency that isn't fiat. They are all fiat in today's world. Switzerland, might be one of the few, but like it's still the Swiss, like it's still not backed by gold anymore. Nothing is. So when you're making comparisons, you got to make comparisons that are relevant. And you're comparing a currency to Bitcoin. You can't. The dollar cannot be compared to Bitcoin because there is the durability issue. Okay. You can't use Bitcoin to live, and it's too volatile to do that anyway. So put your bets on the dollar. And if you're betting against the dollar, you are going to definitely be the loser. You'll be the loser in that one.
It's also not an apples to apples. I mean, the dollar, nobody would say, hey, I'm investing in the dollar. Like, sure, you put your savings, in an account where it's based on the dollar, but like you're not investing in a dollar. But crypto, or Bitcoin at least, is supposed to be a currency, but people invest into it. So it's like you wouldn't be investing into it. It's not a currency.
Correct.
It's an investment at this point. It's a very, very volatile investment at this point. So it's just kind of a weird comparison. And keep in mind also the US dollar, sure, it's backed by oil and debt, but it's also backed by the full faith and power of the United States government, which the United States of America is still the richest country by far and most powerful country by far in this world. So, you do have that going for you as well. Navigator was just asking if you're still kind of cost averaging into T-bills, Chris.
Absolutely, yeah. Matter of fact, T-bills, treasuries, long-term treasuries, definitely still buying them. I've been funding, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but I had to put money into a SEP IRA for tax reasons, and solely for tax reasons, but it's a self-directed SEP. So I've been taking money from the self-directed, lending it out on Private Money Club, and also doubling down on the treasuries and increasing my position with long-term treasuries. And treasuries are a little higher than they were when I was buying in my peak, when I was really going down, but they're still super good. I'm making good money in them. And we're still at the early stages of that because the Fed is still making its moves to move down. But we're in this weird crux where we got an administration change. There's a lot of topics and in the yields, well, anyway, I don't want to go deep into it, but yes, I am. It's a simple answer. Anything else?
No, just, some good comments. I mean, love the spread, basic money math for profits. This was a really smart comment from Mark Perry. Pay off consumer debt as much as possible. And
100%.
Couldn't agree with that more, especially right now. Michael said there's no asset like specially designed whole life, and then use that to invest in other things. I love that, Michael.
And that's the thing too, Michael. I want to hit on that real quick. Like when we talk about specially designed whole life, we're not telling people put your money in the whole life and leave it sit there. Quite the opposite. We're saying you run your money through the whole life. Put your money in the whole life. Find an opportunity for that money to work at a higher velocity. We always talk about debts. If you don't have debts, we should talk about first lien position lending because it's just safe. It's what banks do. Talk about where your money can go and earn a higher rate. The only rule I use, and anybody else can probably use this, is if your cost to borrow from your policy is 5 or 7%, make sure your money goes and works at a higher velocity than that. That's the only rule. So when you send your money out, that was one of the things that person I was talking to the other day that kind of lost his way. He did everything we teach. He sent the money out to work. It's making 12% in loans, but then he's not recycling and recapturing the money. He's just taking and living on the money. Now that's fine, but that isn't what we teach. We teach a banking system, and you would never steal from your bank. You have to be an honest banker. So that's the biggest thing. It's not just the policy. It's taking the money, putting it into the policy, and finding somewhere for it to go to work like you already do with your bank account money. You got to make that money go to work a second time. All right.
Cool, man. Good stuff.
Now let's get on to a topic that's just gotten literally like I almost puked this morning, and I'm going to play a video, and that's how we're going to open this thing. And if any of you have been following this should probably make you sick to your stomach as well. Where the hell's my video? Damn it. I had it up. Of course, now I lost it. Shoot. Hang on. All right, here we go. Yeah. So I think all of you know this guy right here. Okay. This is Piers Morgan, and he's talking about the assassination of the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson. This is a hard topic. You all saw the videos. You've heard about it. You watched literally this man who, everything that I've read about him, he's a good family man. He's a good person, just at the face value, was shot point blank in front of a prestigious Manhattan hotel.
Yeah.
And that's just part of the story. So now let's unravel this thing. So Brian ran one of the largest healthcare companies, in the country. Now healthcare is a fucking mess. People are getting denied coverage. Your premiums are through the roof. I mean, Obama came in and he created Obamacare that was supposed to fix all this, right? How come it made it worse? Why is healthcare the worst it's ever been after it should have been fixed by Obama? Because that was his entire fucking presidential campaign. 4 years. That was what he did. I don't dislike Obama. I didn't dislike him as a president. I thought he was very presidential, but come on, he did his entire term, the 4-year term, was all about Obamacare and fixing healthcare. Obamacare, listen, I used to sell healthcare. It made it worse. It made it more expensive. The only people it helped, and this is kind of who it was supposed to, were the lower income, the folks, they created the exchange, and the exchange helped a little, people like maybe my mom, but it screwed everybody else. And now it's a bloody mess. It's a bloody mess. And if you look into the assassin, who they did find in Pennsylvania, who he was getting some burgers at McDonald's, and now McDonald's is being targeted and blasted and giving poor reviews because he was picked up and arrested at a McDonald's. I just want you to see how irrational and illogical this is. But let's go over to this video, because if you really want to get sick, this is what we have to deal with in this country. This is what leftists do. Anyway, I'm going to play this sucker.
All be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
Well, why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
Because it wouldn't fix.
You seem to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question funny.
A bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all. The planned killing of a civilian by a ruthless assassin would usually provoke outrage from everybody, no matter their politics. But that's not what happened when this hooded man shot dead Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, which is the biggest health insurer in the United States. The assassin left behind 3 bullets scrawled with the words "depose, deny, and defend." Reaction in some quarters has been almost celebratory.
I saw someone say this is like finding out about Robin Hood in the 1300s. Like every new update that comes.
It's very different than the initial introduction to this segment that you gave, where you said he was a deranged lunatic. And as you repeat,
I got to get to the time, 1850. There's a lot on this, but you guys got the summary. Now we're going to get to the sickening part.
Because Taylor's been waiting patiently here. So this issue of Brian Thompson, one of the top healthcare executives in the country, I'm just curious why your first reaction would be to his cold-blooded execution. And people wonder why we want these executives dead. And then you later commented when people were giving you a lot of blowback, "I'm not alone," you said. "Healthcare executive down with party balloons" was on an post that you commented on. Why would you be in such a celebratory mood about the execution of another human being? Aren't you supposed to be on the caring, sharing left, where you believe in the sanctity of life?
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy. Unfortunately, because it feels like
serious.
I mean,
joy in a man's execution.
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband. He's a father. And he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Of Americans that being murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And
I think we've seen enough, but you get the drift. That is just sick. Absolutely sickening to hear that. But it's not just her. There are millions of posts on TikTok and Instagram about people cheerfully saying, oh, he got murdered because he ran a healthcare company and healthcare is broken. So let's just go out and execute the CEOs. Is that really what we want? Is that really the direction we're going? Is that what leftism or whatever you want to call it? I try not to even play the game is pushing toward. We just go out and start executing people for that. I don't even have anything to say. When that video was sent to me by Brandon this morning and I watched it, the only thing I was filled with is the most intense rage. I don't even know what I would do if I was Pierce interviewing her. He handled it pretty well, but you could tell he's pissed. And look at the faces on the other two people there. Stonewalled, like joy. And then she brings up how many other millions of Americans are dying because they're not getting care. So the answer is because there's one problem, let's just go execute the CEOs, right? That's okay. Oh, and then let's be mad that the guy got arrested in McDonald's. So then we're going to give negative ratings to McDonald's. Where does McDonald's even play into this?
Yeah, Taylor Lorenz.
My cat's even pissed off.
She was a tech reporter for New York Times and Washington Post columnist not that long ago too, which just goes to show you kind of the quality of the people that those rags hire these days.
But Eddie, you're saying this is Taylor Lorenz. She's a crazed a Marxist, but it's not just her. Like it'd be fine if it was just her. Like there's lots of crazies out there, but it isn't. It's the whole. Hi, thank you. It's the whole thing. There's millions of people going out there and celebrating the murder of this guy. Like how is that okay? It isn't just her. She's just one example of it. I don't even know. I mean, what's Instagram have to say about this? I mean, like, I'm speechless that this is even like this is even a thing we're talking about. Just speechless. That this, when I saw this, it was a sad day. Like you watch this guy who's a father. Okay. You're like any of you dads out there, like he had kids, like he was a husband gunned down. And can you imagine being his kids and being his wife and you're watching people celebrate his murder, his execution? Dude, like we are staring down the barrel of a civil war. If this is the divide like that, right, there's going to be a trigger that's going to put us into just craziness, which will be deemed as civil war eventually. Like we got to avoid this, but like it just doesn't seem to be getting any better. Biden launching rockets and missiles into Russia to escalate a war that should be tailing off and ending. And that's exactly what Trump's going to do. He's going to end that stupid war. It has to end. 700,000 plus Russians are dead. Now, some of you might be like, well, good, kill the Russians. Those are 700,000 dads, 700,000 moms, 700,000 parents, 700,000 peers. I have lots of friends here in the U.S. that are Russian. They are friends. I don't judge them because they're Russian. I don't judge them because of Putin. I don't judge at all. And then, we're going to talk about Tucker Carlson and what he's been doing. He's literally doing a better job than anyone in the Biden administration does about trying to calm this thing down and bring the light out because he's interviewing Putin. And a lot of people are pissed that he's interviewing Putin. But you know what? That's back when JFK was president, and I'm probably getting these a little bit wrong, but like how they avoided nuclear holocaust was communicating. No one in the Biden administration is even talking to anyone from Russia. We're just throwing bombs at them, escalating a war that should be ending, escalating murder or killing that should not be happening. Anyway, it just pisses me off.
Yeah, I mean, and it gets worse, Chris. I mean, they arrested the guy, and so now they got his manifesto. People have been reading through that, but he's a very smart guy. He went to Ivy League schools, and
you're talking about the murderer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Comes from a very astute family.
He's a good-looking younger guy, and so you have these legacy media, like you had what's his name? The late night host, not Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel was on last night and had a whole stand-up segment, like celebrating the guy, basically saying how like all these women are like texting each other. Oh, I love this guy. I hope I'm on his trial, like as one of the jurors, like because they, think he's a smart, good-looking young guy. And like they're like almost like propping him up and like celebrate. It's so bad, man. It's so bad.
I apologize. Yeah, Brandon corrected me. Cuban Missile Crisis is what we were talking about. Where, there's a lot of just insane, just insane. All right, Stephen, let's move over to. I can't talk about this anymore because it just makes me sick to my stomach. But I had to bring it up. I had to show it. It's just insanity. All right, let's go into the news. There's really not much in the news today. Got some stuff about AI. This is an interesting one. Annual inflation. Let's just hit inflation for 30 seconds here. Annual inflation rate accelerates to 2.7 in November, as expected. Stephen, what was the target that Jerome Powell talked about over and over and over again when they were raising and raising and raising? 2%, right?
2%.
And now we're escalating and going up to 2.7 as expected. Everything's good. Nothing to see over here. We're going the wrong way, folks.
Core CPI was at 3.3%.
And that's if you believe these reports.
Right.
That's if you even believe these numbers, which I certainly don't. We are not moving the right direction. We're moving the wrong direction. We're not getting a handle on this. We're making it worse.
And they're still talking about rate cuts.
And not only that, like and I know nobody's really been following because it's not in the news, but you follow what the Biden administration has been doing? Literally printing money. They've been signing all sorts of fucking deals, pardons, which I'm kind of in the middle on the whole pardon thing, but whatever. I mean, most presidents would do the same thing, but they're trying all these people that are asking the Biden administration to pardon them to what is the word for that? Is that the right word? Pardon, Stephen?
Yeah.
Okay, so pardon all these people. Like, what are they guilty of that they need to be pardoned for? I mean, there's people literally you're seeing come out saying, hey, pardon all of the media, pardon all these people. Like, what did they do? Like, why do they need to be pardoned? Like, you're guilty of something if you're asking to be pardoned. Like, what are you guilty of? You part of this child trafficking? You tried part of the human trafficking? Like, what do you want to be pardoned for? Yeah, anyway. We're going to learn so much when the Trump administration comes in because they're gonna I think just let us know all this shit that's actually going on out there. But a couple other things so inflation's moving the wrong direction, but yet we should celebrate because it's as expected. Unbelievable how that's happening. The Biden administration signing all sorts of deals, sending all sorts of money elsewhere, literally trying to drain the coffers, if you will. So when the Trump administration comes in, that's what's going to happen, right? Now, this is speculation, no basis on this at all, but it just makes logical sense. Like the Biden administration will literally make it as bad as possible. So when the Trump administration comes in, like I don't know if they have the power, but literally pull the plug and let the whole market just go down and say, oh, see, it's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault. Trump got in and now the markets are going to crash and everything else. Listen, and it will. The markets are absolutely going to crash and go down. And then for the first 2 years of this administration, it's going to be a mess. And then the last 2, we're going to live in a better place because we're going to go through the problem and it's going to be painful going through the problem. And we are going to live through this problem. It's going to hurt, folks. It's going to be painful, but it's for a greater future. It's the only way. The only way. We just got to avoid a world war, a civil war. We got to avoid leftists sitting there saying that murder is okay. I mean, we got a lot of things to avoid, but we are going to have to go through it. That's the only way. The obstacle is the way. I saw one other thing here too. Fed Chair Jerome Powell can serve the remainder of his term, says Trump's Treasury pick. Besant, more problems in Greece, more wildfires in Malibu. Let's see. UK and Europe. Europe's got a huge mess. I had an article on that. I just don't want to, I'm going to run out of time. Got lots of stuff going on over there. Earnings are down 66% for Volkswagen. So a lot of problems going on in Europe right now. This talk about the tariffs and everything else are going to definitely be very difficult for European nations to really do it. They're already suffering. So there's a lot of stuff on that. It just says, let's just say the transition to net zero in Europe is not going well. Essentially, let me kind of tell you what's going to happen here with the tariffs and everything. And this is the bad that we got to go through. It's going to not just be make America great, where the U.S. focuses on the U.S., which it has to, just so you know. It's also going to force other countries to realize that the world global trade that was set out by the Bretton Woods is pretty much gone. We're all going to have to be self-sufficient. Europe's going to have to be about Europe. France is going to have to be about France. It's just going to each their own is kind of going to be the theme because geopolitical, like world trade is pretty much over. I'm just telling you that because not that that's a good thing, but it's almost a necessary thing. It's gotten out of hand, and there are too many people just leaning on the backs of America and American workers, and that's just got to change. And it's going to. Like, this administration will change that. But, you know, it's basically just saying these countries are really going to have to focus on their own economies. And everything that happened to Syria, I don't want to leave today without, you know, hitting the Syria thing a little bit, and the change in the Syrian regime, because that's certainly going to have geopolitical aspects and geopolitical things. And we're going to just talk mostly about who's the winner and who's the loser in that one to wrap this thing up. But I want to pause real quick. Stephen, I know you got some other articles we wanted to talk about. I love that, Dexter, the Great Reset. That's exactly what it's going to be. But don't think that that's going to feel good. Stephen, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, just, you know, kind of interesting. I mentioned Elon Musk earlier. It's just, it's interesting to watch his dynamic within this new administration and what that looks like. But he came out yesterday morning, a couple of days ago, said the federal government computers and software are in such bad shape that they often cannot verify payments that are not fraud, waste, or abuse. That's why the government can't pass basic audits. They often literally don't know where your tax dollars went. It's insane. My preferred title in the new administration is volunteer IT consultant. Need to fix the IT infrastructure in order to make government work. This is a grind and hardly glorious, but we can't make government efficient and fix the deficit if the computers don't work. And then you saw a couple of jokes going on, you know, IRS is handling our taxes on this machine. And Elon's like, I wish. Unfortunately, it's much, much worse than this. You know, government software systems have terribly high failure rates. And basically just said the government is actually massively overpaying for software that doesn't even work, which, you know, no surprise there. And, you know, somebody saying it's probably done intentionally. The bureaucrats would have a hard time defending where our money goes if we could actually track it. And, you know, Elon said some of it's intentional. Most of it is just a natural consequence of a vast bureaucracy with no accountability for results. And, you know, you see that right there. And that's basically what our federal government has become these days. And you just see, you know, F up after F up, whether it's international conflicts, whether it's domestic issues. It just seems like there's never any accountability ever anywhere involved. And it just seems like people are sick of that. And I think that's why we saw what we saw in November with Trump, you know, receiving record votes, you know, the most, you know, won the popular vote for the first time in 20 years, a Republican winning the popular vote, you know, just, you know, across the board with the Senate, with the House of Representatives. It was just a serious mandate that people are tired of just the, you know, just the status quo of how things are going. They want to bring back accountability. They want to bring back responsibility and personal you know, thoughts, and you got to love to see it, man. You got to really do. So I love what they're doing with Elon Musk getting involved with all that. I think that's pretty cool right there. Democrats are proposing right now in the Senate. They want to impose a 18-year term on Supreme Court justices. So that would be a pretty major shift and pretty major change. Right now, Supreme Court justices, it is a lifetime appointment. And it was set up that way because they wanted the judicial branch of the federal government, the Supreme Court, to be able to operate outside of any pressure, politics, anything like that, and just follow the Constitution. There's challenges with lifetime appointments, obviously. So they are introducing right now an 18-year term for Supreme Court justices. Kind of noticeably, also along with that, they are not proposing any kind of term limits on their job as senators. So that kind of speaks volumes in itself, in my opinion, but something to watch and pay attention to, because that would be a major shift in kind of how our federal government operates.
Absolutely.
In other small news, JetBlue is bringing first class to domestic flights starting in 2026. So just on a personal level, that's kind of cool, because I actually do like JetBlue in certain scenarios. They do fly direct occasionally when I can't fly Delta, and having a first class option would be kind of cool with JetBlue. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, man, kind of some of the top level news right there.
Yeah, and another thing that would be for most people to celebrate, except for the far leftists, you know, the Marine that was on trial for the New York subway situation where, you know, he put that guy in a chokehold and the guy died, was found not guilty, and good for him. There's no way he should have been found guilty. But again, people are outraged that he was found not guilty. It's we got shit just a little bit backwards here. And also, hey, listen, how many of you want Canada to be the 51st state? I mean, listen, I live close to Canada. I'd love that because like to be able to call, our neighbor country, our brothers up there in Canada, our real brothers, like, hey, you guys are now the 51st state. I don't know if that'll happen, but it's fun to talk about. All right, let me wrap this. We're going to go a couple minutes over on Syria. I've got some pretty good articles, and I'm just going to pull them up because I just want you to all just kind of read along with me. That'll be easier because this is a very complicated, difficult thing to really discuss. So I want to make sure that we're on the right thing. Let's see, is this the right one here?
And Chris, while you're pulling that up, just one last thing before you get into that, just real quickly. I thought this was interesting, and just real quickly before you get into it. So there's been a lot of talk about high-speed rail out in California, and they want to build this high-speed rail that connects LA and San Fran. And so there's been a lot of back and forth. And so, obviously Elon's been kind of against that and people talk trash, but it's like, when you look at the numbers, and I just thought this was kind of funny, there's roughly 220,000 interstate flights in California per year. Let's generously assume 150 seats at $200 a ticket. That's $6.6 billion annually. You could literally just take the expected $125 billion budget they have set aside to build this high-speed rail, invested in 10-year treasury bills. This is what made me think of you, Chris, when I read this. Invested in 10-year treasury bills and make flying in California free in perpetuity. Which is, and it's like 10 times faster than a train ride. So it's just still kind of wild to watch some of these government proposals for things like high-speed rails where, $125 billion to build this thing, and it's not even been started yet. I just thought that was kind of funny, putting the money in treasury bills instead. So all right, let's get into Syria.
It's crazy. All right, well, let's get into Syria. And I've been reading about this. I've been reading about this all morning, folks, and even like while I was on the plane, and I still can't wrap my head around it. So I figured the best way is just to share some of these articles. This is one of those economic newspaper or news articles. So right here, the Bashar al-Assad regime in Syria. Now they've been head of this of Syria for over 20 years, and basically like right here, it's talking about his father, ruled for 29 years. So the fall of this literally ends a 50-year ruling. All right. Which, when we come down to this, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but we've got to really kind of focus on who are the winners and who are the losers of this. And they hit this down here. Let's just see. Let's see. I think I'm on the wrong one. Who are the winners? Yeah. The winners and the losers. Let's get into it. I read this whole thing. You would think I'd be able to recite it, but let's see here. So now that this changed, the biggest losers, I'm trying to find it out. Iran is a big loser in this. And not only Iran, Russia is a big loser. And it's all just because they use Syria to move things. So already taken some Syrian territory from Golan Heights. Where the hell is it? I had this bulleted thing put together for this. Maybe it's a different one here. You prepare for these things and you think you got it prepared, and then you get into it and you're reading it, you can't figure it out. But anyway, so this whole thing that happened, number one is making gold go up. Okay. Gold is definitely going up. It's definitely going to help the dollar a little bit. I think it'll be a positive thing for the U.S., but it could also be a negative thing for the U.S. It's definitely not a good thing for Iran, not a good thing for Russia. Because they were all using this as a means of transporting military stuff and trade and all different stuff. They were using Syria for that. And it was open and being allowed. And now it's not. So the other thing right here is it's a very positive thing for Israel and not a good thing for Hezbollah. So you can kind of read some of this as I leave it up here. But right here, most of the Iranian weapons had to transit through Syria. Lebanon is a loser because HTC might now set the sights on taking new territory from Hezbollah. But, it's an interesting thing that's happened. It's very difficult and complicated to wrap your head around what the impact of it is. Many of you will just kind of say, this isn't important, but this is actually really important. Very, very important. And we need to pay attention to this because this will have some really big impacts on everything that's going to happen into 2025. But, like some of these right here with the air and Navy bases that were in Syria. So Russia pretty much lost those. And anyway, I thought I was going to be able to do a much better job of that because I read that thing like twice and now my head is just a jumbled mess about it. But I think the easiest way to explain and understand that is it's complicated, but don't ignore it is the simplest way to say it. And yes, right there, Mark Perry just said China central banks are buying a lot of gold, and so is everybody else. Gold was up, I think, around 2,700, but that doesn't mean you should just jump out and start buying gold because you'd be buying it high. But you know, here's want some good advice. I'll give you some good advice. And I was telling this to one of my family members this morning. When something's in the news, Bitcoin, gold, when you start seeing lots of ads around companies selling gold or companies, you know, doing Bitcoin or crypto, move away from it. When you start hearing a lot about something in the general population, then that probably means it's too late. The train has already left, and it is not a good investment. When you should be buying into things or looking into things is when nobody's talking about it. When should you have bought gold? When nobody was talking about it. When Stephen was talking about it on our show years ago, like you could have bought gold at a song, but now it's really expensive. But now everybody wants to buy it because everybody's hearing about it in the news. These are emotional based reactions. Why is everybody buying into Bitcoin? Because you see it in the news, because everything's talking about it, because it broke 100,000, because there's the emotional impact on you. But when should you have been buying Bitcoin? Last year when it tanked and was down around like what, 30, 40,000. I can't remember where it was. You should have been buying it. There was not long ago, Bitcoin was at like $17,000, $18,000. Nobody wanted that shit then. That's when you should have been buying it. When you hear about something a lot, that means it's really something you should be moving away from or getting out of and moving into the things that nobody's talking about. Just take that as some really good advice. Stephen, anything you want to talk about? I know for all of you watching, join us this afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern. We are doing our wealth webinar as always. Got a really good topic, got a lot of material. If you've got kids, you're going to want to join us for this, but we got a lot of stuff to talk about right here on wealth webinar. And then we got Ask Me Anything happy hour. And also, Stephen, you want to just give a quick plug? We're going to be getting close here soon. We're going to be seeing a whole bunch of people out in Utah at Sundance, and I am so pumped. I know we're getting close.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say. I was just talking about snowboarding, thinking about coming up there in January. But yeah, we'll be out in Sundance, Utah, February 7th, 8th, and 9th, hanging out, man, at one of the most beautiful resorts in the entire country and doing some snowboarding, doing some maybe a little bit in the
Zip lining, got some spa day action. We got some
salon spa day. Yeah, spa. That's the word.
Hot springs. I mean, you know.
No, I gotta say, Chris, I'm not really a spa guy. I don't know if you can tell, but maybe you would think I might be. But I've never in my lifetime been to a spa and gotten like a full massage. You know, like a full body massage in my life. But I did actually. My wife and I were in Jamaica last month, and she talked me into going in and doing a spa day in the morning, and we did a couples massage. And I got to tell you, I'll be back. It was amazing, man. It felt great. If you've never done it before, I highly recommend it. So, you know, I might pick one of those days to go to the spa. Is weird as that sounds when we're in Sundance, but I just throwing out a little maybe right there. Okay, but I'm looking forward to it, man. It's gonna be a cool time.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. So we'll see some of you out there. Seats are going quick. I see it every day. There's more, or there's less and less spots available. We'll get an update on there after December on how many seats are left, but don't delay on this one. The Sundance experience trip. And just so you all know, this will be the only experience you will be able to attend this coming year. We are changing up how we do our events and what events we do. So it's not going to be like, oh, well, I'll just go to the next one. No, you won't go to the next one because there won't be a next one. So this is it. If you want to join us, if you want to be around me and my team for 2.5 days, have close proximity. I just paid $20,000 to go to Ed Milet's house to be in proximity to him. Was it worth 20 grand? No, but that's what I paid to have proximity to Ed Milet. Like this event, the Sundance experience is $5 grand. You get proximity to me for 2.5 days. You get the ability to just hang with us at the Owl. Epic. You'll never get that in your life. And what you're going to learn and what you're going to take away from that is not just knowledgeable stuff, but it's going to be experiential stuff that you'll remember your whole life. And that is going to be an epic experience for anybody. So get your tickets and don't There's only 10 tickets left. I was just told 10 left. That's it. So if you want to go, grab them. There's buy one, get one half offs for spouses and partners and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, well, just for fun, let's play like this video for just a minute. Just give everyone a little taste of what we got going.
We're already over.
Are we? All right, we'll go over here. I'll put the link. I love it. All right, I'll put the link over in the chat box. You guys go check this out. We'll see you in Sundance. But before then, we'll see you virtually on Wealth Webinar, 1 p.m. Eastern. Ask Me Anything, 4:30 p.m. Eastern today. And hope everyone has a great day. Otherwise, Chris, it's been a fun show. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us for another episode of What the F Happened. We'll see you this afternoon.